Hello everyone, welcome to Arizona Bill Watch for another lively discussion of important and controversial bills. I am your host, Jose Borrajero. Thank you for watching. There is a lot going on at the Capitol these days, so stay tuned because we have a fantastic show for you today. But before we do that, some housekeeping items. Number one, we would love for you to watch the whole show from beginning to end. However, you may also fast forward to the bills of your choice by using the handy chart that we have placed down below. Secondly, if you like what you see, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Third, it costs money to do what we do. So if you like what you see, you may contribute by going to our website, azpeopleslobbyist.com. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the first bill. House Bill HB 2042. Short title, Food Preparation, Sale, Cottage Food. This bill was introduced by Representative Grantham and will be heard in the Senate Finance and Commerce Committee. Now, this is a House bill, but it will be heard in the Senate Finance Committee. That's because we're past the crossover point where all the bills that survived in the House go to the Senate, all the bills that survived in the Senate go to the House. So this is a House bill that will be heard in the Senate Finance Committee on the 26th, which I believe is Monday. Now, it was introduced by Representative Graham, as I said, and this is it's kind of a funny thing. This sets forth guidelines for cottage food products. This is a reincarnation of a bill that was ran last year, and it was dubbed the tamale bill because it was aimed at households where the wife has the tendency to do some cooking, a lot of times tamales, and sells them to the neighbors. And the bill is aimed at allowing this to happen without undue regulation. And all the well, no, I wouldn't say all the Democrats, but there was wide support by the Democrats as well as Republicans. But the governor, and she vetoed it. And so it's back again, and it cruised through the House committees. And so we'll see if she vetoes it this time.
Maybe she was making and selling tamales.
She didn't want the competition, I guess. Actually, there were enough votes to override the veto. Actually, there was so much support that all the Republicans and most of the Democrats would be along with it. They could have vetoed that, but the Democrats backed off at the end because
they got their orders.
Yeah, they didn't want to go against the Queen. Yeah. So we'll see what happens this time.
Okay. So, Archie?
Did you have anything else to add about that, or are we done with this?
Well, we're pretty much done with it, but I do think, if you read the requirements of this, it's fairly strenuous.
Yes.
And I applaud the state for wanting to make sure that we consume wholesome food, but it would seem to me like, they make this applicable to a cottage industry.
Yeah,
Why
that's
don't they make it applicable to, Smith's Foods and all of that kind of stuff, so all the corporations are doing this, have the same rules.
Exactly.
Well, but I thought that they already had those rules.
Well, I don't know whether they do or not.
Yeah, no, this is...
But their rules would be set up by federal, not by state. So.
Yeah, I am sure that they have more stringent rules.
Well, and to be honest with you, I never heard the term cottage food products before. It's always been homemade goods.
Yeah, well, it's a common thing. And if you go to the Hispanic neighborhoods, that is a very common thing. It's not so common with the Anglos, but the Hispanics, that is a, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've never heard that before.
That is a common practice. Yeah, you go down to Maryvale and it's, or South Phoenix, and it's quite a common thing.
That wouldn't surprise me, yeah.
I even looked it up to make sure I knew what it actually meant. So anyway, I'm for this bill.
The end result is that I think we're all in favor of it, and so are most of the Democrats, and we'll see what the governor does with it.
Yes.
House Bill HCR 2038. Short title, Drug Cartels, Terrorist Organizations. This bill was introduced by Representative Montenegro, and it has gone through everything in the House of Representatives except for one. It is pending what we refer to as a third reading, which is a vote of the full House of Representatives. And we generally don't get any forward notice as to when this is going to happen. I'm assuming it will be either Monday or Tuesday next week that it will be voted by the full House of Representatives. Very simply, what this bill does is that it states that Arizona declares drug cartels are terrorist organizations. And it doesn't, I know that, Archie, you've been studying this a little bit more than I have, so I'll let you explain exactly, because I do have a couple of reservations about it.
Well, this is an amendment. This is a proposed amendment to the Arizona Constitution.
And that's one of the problems. We don't like amendments to the Constitution unless they're absolutely necessary. And I
Right.
think that this could have been accomplished by simple statute.
I think it could have also, yes, but the fact that it's put into the Constitution, the amending of the Constitution bothers me. The fact, we really have problems with ongoing, these drug cartels. I don't know if the two of you know it, but at one point in time, the major drug cartel for Phoenix is the Sinaloa cartel. And at one point in time, I don't know if they still do, and I tried to find out, they actually rented office space in the city of Phoenix. Now, can you imagine an illegal drug cartel
Which right
leasing
there,
office space in the city of Phoenix to run their drugs and smuggle human beings?
which goes to show you how in bed the government is with all of this.
Well, the other thing is, they talk about organizations, and if you look it up, they talk about that's two or more persons. So I don't know if you've been following this or not, but apparently there is a new gang that's coming into the United States, and I can't remember now what the name of it is, but it's from Venezuela. And apparently they're matching up now with MS-13.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder whether or not this terrorist organization then would apply to MS-13 and this new gang that's coming in from Venezuela. I think it should. If not, they should be amended to include those.
Now, did you see anything in this bill that tells you what the penalty is for not doing what they want to do?
Well, there's never anything in any of these bills.
and that's
No.
that's my okay. So something I've always questioned is okay, if it's labeled a terrorist organization, what does that even mean? I mean, I understand the concept of it, but nothing is ever done.
Well, if they're declared a terrorist organization, then there is more that can be done, I suppose. But
You suppose, right?
Right, I don't know for sure. This thing about the department to do more or whatever, I don't know, if you don't spell out exactly what the penalty is for not doing it, it's just like so many other bills. Maybe because it is an amendment to the Constitution, you want it to remain vague and then apply the penalty via statute. I think the main reason why, in fact, the only reason why it's there in the Constitution is because they want to bypass the governor, because the governor is likely to veto just about anything that's good. However, as I said earlier, I think a better avenue would have been to make it a statute, which still voter protected, still bypasses the governor, but it's not if a what could be considered a somewhat frivolous amendment to the Constitution. So I think, do we agree on this, that we kind of like the bill but have reservations?
I like the bill. I don't like amending the Constitution, but I
Right.
like the content of the bill.
Right.
I think it could go further, just as you said. But
Yeah. How about you, Gloria?
With
Okay, so all three
Archie.
of us are in agreement that if you're likely to contact legislators, do make sure you contact them and show your approval for this bill. House Bill HCR 2060, Short title, Lawful Presence, E-Verify Program Penalties. This bill just passed the House third reading, which means it's going to be headed for the Senate. It was introduced by Representative Toma, and very simply, well, it does two things. Number one, it makes it so that it is unlawful. You have to use E-Verify in order to qualify people for government assistance. In the past, E-Verify has been applied only to employment. So this extends that to benefits. So you have to have a lawful presence to obtain benefits. And the other one is that it stiffens the penalty for employers that fail to use the system.
For violations.
So, yeah, for the violations. So these are two good things about it, but that's only my opinion. Archie, what do you say about that?
I thought we already had this, but apparently we do not. It's on a federal level, but I thought the state had included.
Okay, no, we do, but here's the problem. Number one is that it did not apply to government benefits.
Right.
We have something that has a little bit of a mention of that, but it's not a very strong law to begin with.
I think the E-Verify is more for employment.
Well, that's the second part that it does. It strengthens the E-Verify in terms of employment because the penalty, if there was any, was very, not much of a penalty. So now we have a real penalty for not using E-Verify, and we also have a mandate that says that you have to use E-Verify to make sure that the recipient of the goodie has a lawful presence. So
Well-
I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's
No, I mean, that's okay. But to me, the problem with this is, one, again, are we really going to go toe-to-toe with the federal government when we start enacting laws that are contrary to the laws of the federal government? Because the laws of the federal government supersede our laws. So unless you're willing to go to the mat on this, I don't know the reason why we're doing this. And you go on and you says, okay, they are not entitled to have public welfare program benefits. And then it goes on to say, unless the state law declares the person eligible. All right. Well, what good does one have to do if somewhere else they're saying, okay, you can? Seems to me like there's something missing in this bill somewhere. And when I bring that up, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to discuss this bill, FAIR recently put out a program, and it said that there are 453,000 illegals in the state of Arizona. That's over 7% of our population. So when you're walking down the street, 1 in every 14 people you pass is here illegally, right? The cost of this is just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. That puts 109,000 students in our schools, which we pay $7,000 to $8,000 a year for. So that costs us $1 billion a year to educate people that are here illegally. This has to stop. It just has to stop.
And this is one attempt at reducing it, if not stopping it. It will not be able to stop it, but it would make it more difficult.
Well,
It's a step in the right
Texas
direction.
is stopping it. Texas closed their border. Now all of those people are coming to Arizona and to California.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's okay if they go to California. What bothers me is they're coming here too.
well, they're getting into California and they just put them on an airplane and they go wherever they want to go. So, yeah.
And I agree with you, Archie. This has to stop because financially we can't do it. We're just handing out money to everybody. And yeah, this is a safeguard to try to, but we all know how safeguards are.
Okay, so we are in agreement that we like this bill, correct?
Yes, they don't go far enough.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Senate Bill SB 1064, gasoline formulations, air quality. This bill just passed on the 22nd yesterday, passed the Senate third reading, meaning it's a vote of the full Senate. So now it is headed for the House. So we will soon have a scheduled hearing in one of the House committees. It was introduced by Senator Wetsack, and it has two important provisions in it. Number one, it expands or requests the EPA to expand the amount of gasoline formulations that are available to Arizona and still meet the strict requirements that we have for pollution. And number two, it makes it so that the government is not the only person that can request a waiver from the EPA, but it includes or it adds both the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. So now three individuals can request a waiver from the EPA when conditions demand. And this is actually a reply or done as a result of negligence or malfeasance on the part of the governor. When we had a crunch in because of a refinery shutdown, we had a problem last summer with supply of gasoline, and the cost skyrocketed to over $5 a gallon. And then she failed to request a waiver so that we could use other blends to supplement it so that we wouldn't get that high. So this is a direct reply to that. So we'll see what happens with it. It'll be in the House next, and we'll see. Archie, do you have anything more to add to that?
Of course, I always have something to add.
Yes, you do.
My question is, why does this bill only cover Maricopa County? It only applies.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I know the answer to that.
Good. Okay, because I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I mean, other people in Arizona drive their cars too.
Yeah, but because of the population and because of the so-called pollution that the EPA claims, then that formulation that we're talking about, there was only one formulation that we're able to use in Maricopa County only. So that is part of the problem, that there's not enough volume to warrant a whole lot of production. So it was geared only to Maricopa County. And why Maricopa County? Well, it happens to be the largest county with the most dense population, so naturally has the highest level of pollution, and that's why we have that situation.
And can I just say this real quick? I'm glad you guys said that, because that it was Maricopa County, because when I was reading this, and as I said earlier, this is above my pay grade. I was really confused about reading this, but I didn't get it was from Maricopa County. So if that's what you guys got, then good.
Yeah, no,
it
is.
says
It
it
is
applies to any county with a population of 1,200,000.
right, which
So
makes
that
it
leaves only Maricopa County.
right.
okay.
And again, the restriction of that one single formulation that can be used in the summer applies only to those counties with that type of population, which means only Maricopa County.
Well, then why don't our state chamber of commerce get busy and bring a refinery into Arizona?
Well, if I were emperor of the universe, I would force him to do it, but I am not. So what can you do?
Yeah.
Well, but the three of us should be.
We will have what is it called, a troika. We could have a
troika.
a Soviet troika as emperors, two emperors and one empress of the universe.
That's right.
We'll get it done.
And we get it done.
We'll get it done.
So the bottom line is that I think it's a good idea. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't see any problem with it, but I think it needs to apply to the entire state, not just Maricopa.
Well, it
County.
would if we had the population in the rest of the state.
Well, we keep getting the illegals coming in, and
Yeah,
we'll
well,
be
we're
there
getting-
soon.
Yeah, we'll get in there. We'll get in there
there
fast. Okay, so we have 3 yeses on
Yes.
this. Senate Bill SB 1067, DCS, Group Homes Investigations. That's the Department of Children's Safety. It's what that means, DCS. This bill is going to be heard in the House Health and Human Services Committee on the 26th. It was introduced by Senator Shope, and what it does is that, it includes in the definition of abuse, physical injury or emotional damage of a child by an employee of a child welfare agency that is contracted with the Department of Child Safety. This is the result. There have been some hearings of a joint committee of both the House and the Senate regarding this problem of child safety. The Department of Child Safety apparently has not been doing as good a job as they could be doing. There have been problems with foster homes. There have been problems with the way they handle things. And there are several bills going through the legislature now trying to correct some of those shortcomings that we found as a result of those hearings. So, and this is one of those. This is one of those bills.
Well, I'd kind of like to see a little clarification on this. One, does it include daycare centers? Right. Then something else to think about.
Well, a daycare center is not necessarily.
It's not government.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily have to do with a child that's in jeopardy or a child that. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything with the child's safety. Presumably, daycare centers are just some place where you put your child in there when you go to work. And it may be excellent and it may not be. But it's not necessarily a place that warrants any kind of...
A lot of the instances that they're talking about here is a situation in which maybe the child welfare center is in the process of maybe removing this child from parental custody. And I can assure you that in most circumstances like that, in all probability, if the child is of any age at all, they're going to be fighting that child custody individual who's taking them into custody. If you force the child, is that child abuse under those circumstances? I don't know. I just think this needs. I'm in favor of the bill, but I think it needs to be needs to be clarified a little bit.
And when I read the bill, my first thought was, don't we already have all of these? Aren't there already supposed to be these safeguards? And unfortunately, when you have also a government agency or any organization monitoring themselves, you are going to get an expected outcome. So I don't know what to say about this. As I said, it seemed to me that all of this should already be in place, but...
Yeah, well, the main thing is that what we do is we want to make sure that there's investigations so we can find out exactly what's going on, and that's what the bill basically does. And to that extent, I like the bill.
Oh, I do too.
And Archie likes the bill. And
with that being said, yes. It just, so like I said, I don't understand, because it seems like all these safeguards should already be in place.
right,
But-
and what we're trying to do is put them in place.
Yeah.
So we all agree that it is it's a good bill.
Yeah.
Right.
Senate Bill SB 1189. Short title, Political Subdivision Gun Shows. This bill is going to be heard in the House Judiciary Committee on the 28th, which I believe is Wednesday. It was introduced by Senator Watsack. And basically what it does, this is a Second Amendment type bill. Basically, what it does is that it prohibits political subdivisions in Arizona from prohibiting a gun show from occurring in a political subdivision. What happens is that according to Arizona law, gun shows are okay. But then a city comes along and says, no, we don't want these Second Amendment types in in our midst. So we're going to prohibit a gun show. And what this law says very simply is, no, you can't. The state law has supremacy over this. And so...
And I'm just going to say up front, I agree with this. I don't think, and they address also when you're a concealed carry. I mean, you should be allowed to have a gun show and so on and so forth. And like you said, state law should override the city.
It brings uniformity to our state laws across the state. I mean, just imagine if you didn't have something like this, you could be sitting in Maricopa County and you could drive to Flagstaff and they could arrest you up there while you're perfectly legal here. So it brings uniformity so that you don't have to worry about crossing county lines and finding yourself in violation of the laws of that particular county and being put in jail for having some kind of a criminal violation on your record. So, uniformity of laws is good.
Okay, so we all three agree that this is a good bill. So our advice to people who are likely to contact legislators is to say, yes, contact them and let them know that you approve this bill.
Yeah.
Good idea. Yes.
Senate Bill SB 1198. Short title, Disruption Educational Institution Concealed Weapon. This bill will be heard in the House Judiciary Committee on the 28th, which is Wednesday, I think. It was introduced by Senator Rogers. And very simply, it's aimed at universities. Because what they're saying is that if an individual has a concealed weapon permit, and as a result of that, that person has been checked out and presumably is a law-abiding citizen and so on, that person should have the right to defend himself, especially in a university situation, because as it is now with this gun-free zone type of thing, that's where you find most of your mass shootings, because the perpetrator knows that there's not going to be anybody there to return fire. And so that is a tremendous encouragement. But Archie, you have something else to say about that.
Well, we just finished a bill dealing with cities and counties, enacting their own laws on gun shows and this kind of stuff. And to me, this kind of falls into the same set of circumstances. Under state law, the universities are required to provide a safe place for their students and their teachers and their visitors to come and go for free speech and to move about the campus and feel safe. But all of a sudden now, we may be presenting them with an almost impossible situation. How do they guarantee to that individual out there who just insists that guns are the worst thing that were ever created and just feels totally unsafe around anyone that may even think about owning a gun? But now we're telling them you can't prevent somebody from carrying a concealed weapon on campus. I think that it's going to be a tough thing for the universities in the future to maybe provide the requirements that is required for them to provide for the safety and security of their students and visitors, and at the same time complying with this. And I agree that merely because an individual carries a gun doesn't make them dangerous. But let's suppose I'm carrying a gun and I've got a holster on my hip and I've got my shirt that's hanging over the top of it, and I'm walking down the sidewalk at the University at Arizona State, and in swinging my arms, I pull my shirt tail aside and if somebody sees my pistol. Have I done something that's dangerous under the provision of this? I don't know. I mean, it's a tough situation. I understand it in both directions.
But what do you mean under this provision? What do you mean that if
Well-
did they do something wrong?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be a concealed weapon thing, so that
Right.
means it remains concealed. What he's saying is that once
Oh,
that
so
shirt,
if they-
once that
uh-huh.
shirt is removed by the wind or by whatever,
Right.
then it's no longer
No
concealed.
longer
now it's-
concealed.
it's
Right, and I
visible.
agree with, okay, I see what you're saying.
But the problem, the problem is that there's no reason why the university environment should be any different than the Phoenix environment or the Tucson environment or any other community. I mean, it's just like another little city.
Well, and in all honesty, also, most people, if they have a concealed carry, you're not seeing the gun. And so that's just the fact. And so anyway, I see where you're coming from. This is interesting.
I agree with you that in most instances, but I disagree with you when you're comparing the Arizona State University to downtown Phoenix, because downtown Phoenix does not have a law which says the university will guarantee your safety.
You mean where the
state
city
law,
won't
the state law
guarantee-
basically says the university will guarantee your freedom.
Well, then the question is, does complying with this, assuming that it passes and it gets signed into law, which is a big assumption, but assuming that all that happens, will this enhance the security or hinder it?
In my opinion, it enhances it, because if somebody does come on and decides to start shooting up, the people with the concealed carry, they're going to be there to protect the people.
Yeah. Well, I actually, what happens then in most situations, including this potential one, is that the mere knowledge that there could be an armed citizen is enough to deter an
right.
individual who wants to do mischief.
I agree.
It's just like anything else, you know. If you have an easy victim, you're going to react. If you have a tough victim, you're less likely
Right.
to do it. So,
I'm in favor of this.
Archie, what's your overall opinion? You're not sure.
I'm not sure, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
just
we
not
have
sure.
one not sure, one in favor, and I
And
am
I'm just,
also in favor.
I'm just going to say one other thing, and it kind of goes back to what we've discussed. The bills don't cover everything.
No,
So,
they don't, no.
You know, so, anyway,
Okay, so we have 2 yeses and 1 maybe.
yes.
Senate Bill SB 1357. Short title, Early Ballots, Affidavits, Privacy. This bill will be heard in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on the 24th. It was introduced by Senator Mesnard, and it requires an early ballot affidavit to be concealable. If you look at the return envelope, the affidavit is quite open. So it intends to make that concealable. Probably improves the privacy and security of mail-in ballots. I don't know. Archie, what do you think about that?
I think this is a bunch of nonsense. We want to protect our right to mail-in ballots, or we want to protect our right to a secret ballot. But now what appears to be the result of this amendment to this bill is we have to have an envelope within an envelope in order to get it back to the county recorder's office. And I don't know if you've seen the paragraph of what has to be on the outside of that envelope, but that's longer than I ever wrote to any of my girlfriends. I never wrote a letter that long. So, you know, how are you going to put all of that stuff on an envelope?
Well,
I think we're just going way, way too overboard here about it. You know, mark your ballot, put it in an envelope, stick a stamp on it, and address it to the county recorder of Maricopa County or whatever county you live in, and forget it. You know, just make sure you get it there before 7 p.m. The day following the election day. That's all you need to do, and don't worry about it.
Well, no, we have to worry about it for 2 reasons. Number one, and we have 2 competing problems here, 2 competing theories. Number one is that we want the the ballot to be secured, okay? But we also want to make sure that it is not a fraudulent ballot. And we cannot do that without having some kind of a balance between the two. We all know that the major source of election fraud is by mailing ballot, because all it takes is a signature, and we know that there's no way that a signature, even with all the requirements that we have now, there is no way that signatures alone can determine. We don't have the personnel trained to be able to make that determination.
Right.
It's more a guess than anything else. So what this bill aims to do is have a little more information to make it easier to identify this ballot and make sure that it is proper and not the fraudulent ballot, and but still maintain the privacy that so many people insist upon. It's a balance. Does this strike the proper balance? I think it does, but not everybody else does. So that's where we're at. Does that answer
Listening
your-
to both sides, I have no idea. I understand your side, but then I understand your side too. All I say is, I wonder what the third world country thinks about all of our ballot problems. I
Well,
mean,
the best answer would be do away with mailing
that's the
ballot.
best answer.
That's-
Don't even
the
let
end.
people vote.
Okay?
Just let the three of us pick this.
That we'll just,
We'll get back to our troika. We got this figured out.
The answer is no mailing ballot, okay?
that's the answer.
Yeah,
But with that being said,
But the problem is that 80% of the people, at least in Arizona, 80% of the people would cry holy hell if you take away their right to mailing the ballot. I mean, they're too lazy to, once every 2 years, to spend an hour or so going and voting in person. So they have the precious right to mailing the ballot. So it's a death. If any politician that runs on the idea that we're going to do away with mailing ballots is bound to lose. There's no question about it. Right away, he'll have 80% of the population against him.
You just wait till I become governor. I'm going to do an executive order, get rid of mail-in ballots.
Yeah, okay.
so with all that being said, I guess I'm for it.
Yeah, I am for it too. Again, it's trying to strike a balance between the two competing requirements, and that is difficult to do. And this bill goes
Archie?
a long way toward doing that.
It doesn't make any difference how long you explain it. There's going to be 100,000 people that don't understand it, and they're going to screw up their ballot.
So pertaining to this bill, you're
I'm
okay.
ambivalent about it.
Yeah, you're
Doesn't affect me
okay.
one way or another. I go to
Okay.
the polling place and vote. And if you want to know how I vote, I'll show you my ballot. I don't care.
Well, some people do. So we have two people in favor. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And one against, or
Yeah,
one?
What
I'm
one-
against, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And one, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Senate Bill SB 1495. Short title, Personal Property Exemption Increase. This bill is going to be heard in the House Ways and Means Committee on the 28th, which is Monday. It was introduced by Senator Mesnard, and it's a very simple bill. All it does is that it increases the threshold for taxation of personal property for businesses. Right now, if you own a business, and naturally you're going to have equipment there, if that equipment is valued at, say, $1 million, you pay tax on the difference between that million and the exemption, which used to be $207,366. How they arrived at that, I don't know. So you the first $207,366 you don't pay tax on. If this bill were to pass and become law, then that limit would be increased to $500,000. So in the same example that I just used, where you have a machinery that's worth $1 million, now you pay tax only on that difference, which
On
would be
$500,000.
$500,000. So it's not clear to me why personal property has to be taxed in the first place, but it is. So what this does is it it expands the
And
Exemption.
simply, I agree with this bill. So I am in favor.
Archie, what's
of-
your take on it?
Well, I don't disagree with the bill, but I think it's a silly bill. I mean, if you're going to put the exemption out there, make it worthwhile. I mean, $500,000, if you're talking about anybody that's doing any major farming in the state of Arizona, they go out and they buy a tractor, all right, just one tractor, and that's $500,000. Now, if they got two tractors, well, all right, so I mean, I suppose it's a little bit, but you need
Well,
to
it's
make
better
it at
than it
least-
was.
So
You need to, well, why not
this
just
is
get rid
a-
of the personal property
This
taxes?
is only a one tractor exemption. You want at least a two tractor, you want a two tractor or three tractor exemption.
Let me tell you, farming today is a very, very expensive
Yes, it is.
proposition.
No.
You have these people, and I know where there is one farm where they're farming 50,000 acres. And let me tell you, you're not going to farm 50,000 acres with a 15 horsepower tractor. You're just not going to do it.
Right, no, I agree.
And so, I mean, I think this needs to be realistic. Maybe they could make it proportional to something. I don't know. But, if I'm running my donut shop out here and the only thing I've got is a deep fryer, and it costs me $50, this don't mean anything to
Right.
me, does it? Right? So make it proportional so that it means something
Well, then
to
you have a
people.
tax write-off.
Well, no, you don't get that. You don't get that tax.
Okay,
You get it.
so if
Or
I-
deduction.
Depreciation.
The deduction.
Okay, so if I get your take properly here, is that it doesn't do that much good. However, I take the position that if you have a 200,000 exemption now and you go to a 500,000 exemption, you've made progress.
Yes.
Now, is it good progress? Is it as much as we need? No.
But
This
it's
is just-
progress.
This is just moving the ball at a little, it's not a touchdown, but you've moved the ball a couple of yards.
Well, why not give some thought to it and make it practical?
Well, we can say
Look,
that about
when I
most
go out
of
and I buy myself a tractor and I spend, $500,000 on it, and then that tractor goes out there and helps me produce an ear of corn, and I got to pay the money on it, that tax on the money that I earn from that ear of corn, and then I got to pay taxes on the tractor. Then I've got to pay taxes on the fuel that it uses, right? Then
Well, it could very well be that, that this is all that Mr. Mesnard or his advisors thought that they could get away with. Maybe they would like to see more, but this is all they feel that they could pass. Keep in mind that we do not have a friendly legislature. We have only a one-vote majority in each chamber, and we also have a governor that
Doesn't like-
loves taxes, and
Loves to veto.
most likely would veto this one as well anyway. But so we don't have the luxury of passing legislation that really is meaningful, as long as we have those two situations in place: a Marxist governor and a neo-Marxist legislature.
I understand.
So I'm for this bill, as we said, that it's at least progress.
Okay, so how about you, Archie?
Well, I'm not going to be against something that's going to reduce somebody's taxes. No.
Okay.
Okay.
So as long as it don't increase mine.
So we're in agreement.
So all three of us.
Yeah, all three of us agree that perhaps this doesn't go far enough, but it's definitely a yes.
Progress, yes.
This brings to an end this week's edition of Arizona Azbillwatch. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please make sure you tell your friends, relatives, and anyone else you know. And make sure you tune in next week for another fantastic edition of Arizona Azbillwatch.